Everybody, thanks Vijay for giving this wonderful opportunity for sharing insights on interesting topics relevant to our workplace, to our careers, to our own learning and development, and also general purpose of sharing the knowledge amongst the community members. So I'm going to talk about inspirational leadership in the context of ancient Indian wisdom. So I'm not sure if we have got any international participants in today's session, but for their interest, I've tried to keep it in a generic in nature so that we focus on the meaning of it rather than delving too deep into the spiritual or the what you call religious aspects of the sacred text. Ours is a treasure trove of knowledge and wisdom. So there's a plenty to read. Even I would say that even one lifetime is not sufficient to go through all the scriptures that we have, right? So just I had to cull down a lot of content and try to focus only on those aspects which have, I would say, in my opinion, a direct reference uh, to to management philosophies, management theories, and also leadership theory and the aspects of leadership in modern organization. Okay, Joseph is also there, yeah. So this entire material is based on the lecture that was imparted by one of the professor at IIM Bangalore, and I'm so fortunate to attend this session. So Professor Mahadevan, who handles one of the areas as a professor in the Indian Institute of Management Bangalore, he has his own dedicated YouTube channel, and he shares a lot of these such articles in form of videos, in form of lectures, and he also gives these presentations to other organizations, not just to the students in the institute, but he goes across and then he shares his thoughts and perspective through the lens of Indian scriptures. So we'll move forward. So I'll just let people have a quick glance at it. Those who do not know me, who are seeing me for the first time. For the rest of you, this is a very familiar profile, not anything new now. So I'll start with this, some provoking thoughts. What's ailing the modern workplaces, and time and again, whatever we talk these days, we always try to bring in the current context. The world has been transformed significantly in the last 2 to 3 years because of the events that we know, how the events have unfolded, and still some more crisis is going on in the Europe and other places. So how these events are shaping up the world, how these are impacting the lives of the people, and does this lead to evolving new mindset, new philosophies, and how the worldview is changing because of the impact of these events. But we'll be focusing more on the workplace context, not make it a very universal topic, but to try to focus it and define the scope to the workplace context. So let's say now many surveys have been done by many bodies and many organizations, and even now, if you see, we have seen kind of turmoil going on. First, we saw the great resignation wave during the COVID and pandemic, and now in the last quarter, most recently, the last 2 to 3 months, we are seeing now, great turmoil, especially in the IT space, where there are a lot of layoffs being happening. And a younger generation, especially millennials and the Gen X, the Gen Y, these people, and some other people, from the survey findings, we find that people are getting burned out, people are feeling stress, they're not able to enjoy their life, they're not able to enjoy their work either. So we're going to look at some of these aspects of what's ailing the modern workplaces. So from the survey, one of the things that stood out compared to the rest of other factors is the deprived meaning in workplace. A lot of people, including all of us here, we try to derive meaning, get some meaning at our workplace, from our work, from our career, from our job, right? But the survey tells that deprived meaning at workplace. Employees want a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment in their jobs. To a certain extent, they feel motivated by the paycheck, by the promotions, by the increments, by the other career growth opportunities, but nothing beats the inner joy, the inner fulfillment that you get, the sheer satisfaction that you derive after doing a good job. Right? So that's kind of missing. And globally, this is a global phenomenon. It may vary in intensity from one geography to another, but this is a global phenomenon. And workplaces are becoming like slog places, right? People are working extended hours, and the amount of workload that is on everyone's shoulders is increased manifold. Now, what is consequence of this? And they're not the workers or the people, they're not able to adopt a healthy lifestyle. They are getting into bad habits. Workaholics, like for them, it's all work, work, and work, uh, from day in to day out, from morning till night. They are always engaged in the work, because of which they are missing out on so many of the good things that the life has to offer. So due to this, their extended work hours and their nature of work, extended hours, they they're missing on their family relationships. They are missing on their relationship with their friends. A lot of things are suffering because of this phenomenon. So what it eventually leads to: burnout, emotional overwhelming stress, that leads to overall poor quality of life. So as human beings, we really would like to have a work life balance. We like to enjoy our life. We like to grow ourselves. We like to develop our skills. We like to spend good time with family. After all, we are there for our family, right? I mean, we really like to spend good time with them, look after our children, go on a vacation, or spend some good time, discuss good things within the family, or having good food over the dining table, and then talk about the things which really matter to ourselves. So money affluence, material affluence that is on the up, on the rise, is not able to fill the void of emptiness that everyone feels. So it looks like the kind of joy has gone out of our lives. Does this sounds familiar, similar? Have you come across anyone who you think show these aspects? A burnout, a workaholic, not able to spend time with family, not able to spend time for their own development. Anything anyone would like to share? Do you agree or do you disagree on this, the state of union?
Absolutely, Hiren. This is Harsha.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with especially like working from home leaves no time limits, right? Like when we used to go in offices,
Hmm.
then we had like an in time and out time, right?
Absolutely,
But here,
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
whenever there is till the time there's work, people are like always working, and it affects the family, especially the kids, and
Yeah.
even
Rightly
the
said.
friend circle. Yeah, our relationship with friends as well. Like if earlier, like we would have emotional support from the friends who would
Friends,
we could see, right,
you could
in
see them, you could
office
meet them, you can meet them in person,
and
you could
talk.
talk to them.
Yeah,
Yeah. And just a normal chat, what about the water cooler conversation, right? And in the
yeah,
pantry, in the cafeteria, near the water cooler, the kind of conversations, the kind of gossip or what. So these were like emotional outlets which were like kind of cut off
exactly.
because of forced work from home. And that, yeah, that has caused a havoc, I would say. You are absolutely right, Harsha.
Yeah,
Right.
Hi, this
So
is Avinash. I also
Avinash,
truly
yeah.
agree. And the
Yeah.
harsh point of this one is that, we somehow forced ourselves only to limit yourself and cut off from the
Absolute
society. So
brilliant
that's
point.
another angle.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be involuntary, it could be voluntary in some cases. You're absolutely right. I mean, a wonderful point you brought up. Thank you for that. Thanks, Harsha, for your points as well. So what does it lead to if this goes unchecked? If this goes on, without people noticing it, then it could have very severe consequences. So if you look at how this thing progresses, I just trying to pan it out in three stages. It begins with the stage where you are just working hard, and they are focused on earn, and earn more, right? Because we are still uh, attracted by the materialistic things. We have got this peer pressure, and we are driven more by desires and wants. So we would like to acquire more. For that, we try to get ahead in the life. We would like to get that fatter and bigger paycheck. So we continue, we work hard, and we in the process we ignore other things which are so important for us, important for our well-being, important for our relationships. So these things start to fall by the wayside. We neglect our health and well-being. We do not take time off. We do not take break. And then this gets bigger and uglier. And then what it results in stays to the worn out, right? We look like kind of a worn out, a tired machine, has not got time to take a break or didn't get a time to relax, unwind, and then come back fresh, rejuvenated. So what it leads to, we lack the focus, we lack the concentration. Our plate is always full. There's always a lot of work to be done. We never get a plate empty. And then this results in guilt that I'm not able to do more. I'm not getting that kind of a joy or satisfaction from, so that one derives from getting a good job done. Mood swings results, calling out sick often. Our temperament changes. We become too cynical. We are always irritated and ugly mood. We can't get proper sleep, so we suffer from insomnia. And if we get worse, we get into bad habits of drinking and smoking. And the terminal state would be kind of, leading to the perdition of the point of no return. We become nervous wreck. There's a hopeless living. Then these are very sad state to lead. Not everyone ends up doing things, but I can tell you there are a lot of figures, a lot of data which I have not brought in here for the sake of time. But you shouldn't be surprised to hear that Bangalore is the suicide capital of India. Did you know that?
No, not at all. We thought
Yeah.
it's a city with such a good weather.
Yes, a
And
city with
people
such a
must
good
be
weather.
happy. Yeah.
Indeed, but it is number one city in India where the maximum suicides and the people in the age group 20 to 40, they've become the bulk of the people who cut their life short. It's all because of the pressures in the modern life. No, they are not able to relate to their society. They're not able to relate to their work, to their friends, because they've ended up in such a state where they are kind of sometimes they get into depression, and even in the worst state of depression, they have to go to counselor, they have to go to a therapist, they have to go for medications. The medication which will help them sleep better, medication which will which will subdue their agitated mind. So these are very sad state of affairs, and especially when the young people they suffer, it's even worse. So how do we address this? Now, this is very bad situation for any nation, for any society. If we see younger people suffering due to this, then there's must be something wrong, right? With the way of our life or the approach to the life in general. So why are we stressed? It's because of the single thing that that we need to find a way to strike a very nice balance between work and our personal life, family, our children, our parents, our friends. So we have the right to enjoy the work as well as life equally, right? But due to pressures, from different directions, there are a lot of pressures. There we got these targets, we got this, you know, angry, unhappy customers who put a lot of pressures for delivery timelines. Yes, we are there for customers. We have to fulfill their expectations. We have to give them the value that will make them happy, and they'll come back to us with more business, more orders. But in the process, we forget to strike a balance, right? So here we are becoming rich in terms of money and material things, but then we are getting poorer because everybody's asking for more time. People have a lot of money on hand, but they don't have enough time on hand. So whenever you ask people, they'll tell you that I don't have time for this, I don't have time. It has been 2 years since I watched a good movie. It's been 2 years since I went on a vacation or I picked up a nice book or read it or listened to music, right? So the greater likelihood of disappointments when these aspirations are not fulfilled, it leads to stress. And then these visions are distorted. Why? What the reality is something different than what we actually face in the world. So and this happens because of the rapidly changing society. The society is also changing rapidly. Our parameters of life are also changing, right? What we used to consider important is not so important, and vice versa. So these factors, these external pressures, put a lot of stress on the minds of the young people, and that's where this thing lead to chaos. People who become so dysfunctional in life, they can't have any joy in their life, neither they can have any joy in their work. So let's focus on this modern management. Is this like when we try to bring this in the context of workplace? What are the issues for individuals? How to address the normal mental stress? What the leaders have to think to here? Don't they have any role to play here? When we see around their team members, their subordinates, their colleagues, they're going through this kind of a crisis, or they're going through this kind of a difficult situation, don't they have any role to play? Can't they make any difference in the lives of their people, right? So how to address this enormous mental stress? Beyond body exercise, there may be some recommendations in term, in form of, going for a therapy, or, uh, hitting a gym, going for some physical exercises, lifestyle changes, including diet changes. You may meet a dietitian, and the dietitian may recommend a balanced diet. But despite that, this emotional, enormous mental stress does not go away. And then we are not able to get the meaning. What's the notion of work here? Is it a career? Is it a job? Is it something that gives me a regular paycheck? Or is it something that is more deeply connected to me? Does it have any meaning for me, for my family, for my life, for my career? Can it lead to any kind of a joy or evolution? Am I evolving? Am I growing? Am I becoming a better person by the day? Does it help in the character building, not only for me, for my colleagues, for the society at large? And do I have a unique personal space that I call my own, very own? And who will help create it nurture? So there are a lot of questions that is bogging people's mind because of this unhealthy way of life and unhealthy way of working. So today's context we see is a world of dualities. On the left hand side, if you see, it's all the progress that we see. The gross domestic product is increasing. What is the key ingredient for GDP is the consumption. The more people buy goods, buy things, the more goods are produced to fulfill that demand, and that results in increased GDP. But increased GDP, can it directly correlate to increased happiness? A country with the highest GDP, where does the country stand in the index of happiness? There are other indicators which tells us which is the happiest country in the world. The happiest countries in the world are not necessarily the ones which are in the top 20, economic thermometer. So income levels going up, there are a lot of material possessions, wealth accelerating at a great place. We see people, buying big households, big cars. There's more buying, selling. There are a lot of malls coming up. So it's all consumerist way of living. We keep consuming, and then that doesn't fulfill our desire, and we consume more, thinking that this will, satiate our desires. But then it never ends. It's a kind of a vicious cycle. And that this we associate with our identities. We get trapped in this sense of false identity. We identify ourselves with our possessions rather than who we really are. What's our value system? Even though we have got more education, more education standards, there are a lot of colleges, institutes, courses. So there's a lot of knowledge quotient coming up, right? It's increasing. But does it necessarily mean more wisdom, more knowledge? Does it correlate to more wisdom? On the other side, you see young people aging faster. People started to get gray hair early on. They got wrinkles on their face. They have got hanging shoulders. Sometimes, because of the bad diet and other habits, they start to get bulgy bodies at an early age. And also the lifestyle diseases, which we never heard of, which we would often hear only senior citizens would get it, like 50 plus years or 60 plus years. These diseases are being found in the younger people, as young as 30 plus. You would have seen stories about, young people dying due to enormous stress and emotional stress or any other kind of stress, right? Midlife crisis, which used to be at a midlife, right? Somewhere like it would happen at 40, but these are now hitting people at the age of 30. We have moved into cities, we have dislocated ourselves, we relocated to the places where we have to work. So we move far away from our families, from our friends, from our society. So we lack that support that Harsha is just talking about, right? So in generally, the material quality of life is improving. We got a lot of luxury around us, but then the other life, which is more deeper sense in terms of the peace of mind, in terms of good health, well-being, that is deteriorating. That is on the decline. And we don't find any role models. Where are the leaders, role models whom we can follow, whom we can emulate? Anyone would like to share anything here on this slide?
Yes, absolutely, Hiren. Regarding the role model which you mentioned, like when we were young, close to being freshers, we would have had role model at work and workplace, as well as in the friend circle or family circle, where we would like look forward to. But sitting at home and everybody following same lifestyle of what you just mentioned. Everybody is
Yeah.
like out for shopping in malls and about gadgets. So everybody following the same
Same.
routine. People really are lacking those role models basically, and
It's like a
not
virus,
having
it is very infectious. This lifestyle is very infectious. So it becomes
yeah,
irresistible. You can't hold yourself, right? And why? Because
exactly.
you're getting more money in your hands, right? And
Yes.
and there's a lot of products, a lot of goods offered on the sale. Every time you go
Yeah.
through a shopping mall, you find big banners in very large letters, sale 30% off, 40% off. So it's very tempting not
Yeah.
to be pulled, in that direction. Yes, and then
Yeah.
there's always a life of comparison that many people get trapped into.
Exactly.
But then this is where the things begin to go down, right? This is where if you do not check
Yeah.
it, you, see, no
And
one is
just to
saying
add
that you should
little
not
more, yeah,
go
just
ahead.
to add little more, if you go to shops and malls and then you see the banners, but what about this Flipkart days and Amazon days, right? Oh
Fridays and
my
Black
God, they do
Thursdays,
not
yeah.
let people to go to sleep also.
Absolutely right. So this is where the world we are living, the world, the world of, I call it a world of dualities, right? So you got a lot of
Yeah.
things on the positive, but then this does not reflect, this does not translate into overall quality of life. When I say quality of life, it is about, as human beings, we need to nurture ourselves, we need to sustain ourselves, right? That's what it means. So this is where I'd like to a little bit go into a spiritual angle in the holistic view of the world. And those who are international attendees here, just for your reference, like the sacred Bible, we have like sacred scriptures. So Bhagavad Gita is also one of our very ancient, old. We do not know the age and time and all that, but it's very old, and it is we call it like the word from the mouth of God. That's what we call it, and it's got a lot of knowledge and wisdom is enshrined in all these scriptures. So I'm going to talk about this one shlok. So I'll just try to pronounce it to the best of my ability. And this is from one of our very ancient scholar and a guru called Adi Shankaracharya. God made a remarks on introductory remarks on Bhagavad Gita, because Gita itself is a big epic within the larger epic of Mahabharata. So Dvividho hi Vedokta Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshano Nivritti Cha. So it comes in two parts, and the second part is Jakata Sthiti Karanam Praninamaha Sakshad Abhyudayani Shreyasya Hetu. So what this means that this, if you translate this in literally in English, it says that dharma is, in simple words, your duty or responsibility. As a human being, what's your duty or responsibility? You want to become a better person, and you want to make your society a better place to live in. You want to make your country, your nation, or the whole world a better place to live in, to sustain and to grow and to evolve. That's a duty, right? Dharma. So it's a twofold in nature. So two aspects of it. One aspect is called pravritti. Pravritti, again, English translation, simple translation means action. It's an outward action. Whatever role that you have playing in the society, as a father, as a son, as an employee, as a husband, right? In each of these roles, you have a certain actions to perform. Fulfilling that duty, responsibility that you have towards yourself, towards your society, towards your family, or towards your company. So that's action. That's outward in nature, right? You do something, and then as a consequence of that, we get results, right? And the other aspect of this dharma is nivritti, which people have not understood properly. If I ask any person in India, those who know this word, they will tell that nivritti means retirement. That's that's a wrong meaning. So nivritti means inward contemplation. So it means that inaction, right? You are contemplating. You're not doing any physical outward action. You are just contemplating. You're thinking, but that itself also is an action. It is not an inaction. So what dharma ensures that it brings about stability of the world. Because if you continue to perform your duty, you exercise your responsibility, things will move in the right direction, and everything will be stable, right? So the world would be stable. Now it is meant to ensure that the socio-economic welfare on one hand, but same time maintaining an inward freedom for all beings. So it's a dual nature. So you outwardly you perform the action so that the society is maintained, the progress is maintained, but you also try to keep your inward contemplation going on. They're thinking, meditation, contemplation, and all that stuff. So that's how this ensures that the world is not going out of the axis. It continues to spin around the on the axis and continues to revolve around the sun. So the things are in maintained in proper state. So the question is now, can we have nivriti? That is, nivriti also means peace, tranquility, physical and mental freshness, inward contemplation. So people who are not ruffled by any kind of a situation, people who are able to maintain the poise, the equanimity, they do not get affected so easily by the sudden change of events or any untoward incident happens. They are able to maintain their poise. So can we have that kind of a state of mind, that state of a being where we are very peaceful, tranquil, physical and mental freshness, even when engaged thick in the pravritti? Thick means even when we are performing our duty, we are in the thick of things. We are day in, day out, we are doing things, we are performing a lot of actions, we are performing our duty to the best of our ability. And yet inwardly, we are very peaceful, calm, stable, very fresh and all that. So can we combine social welfare with spiritual truth? This is where we're going to find answers from our ancient scriptures and try to draw upon the wisdom that our sages and our rishis and our gurus, they passed on from generation to generation through these scriptures. Any question on this slide? Anyone? So Thomas, for you, this is just something, a sacred text is there, and I just give you a translation of this text. All right, so let's go ahead. I think you're good. So we try to see, what learnings we can draw from this wisdom, right? Which is, there are plenty in all of these ancient texts. And then we don't know where it is because it is not so very well organized and documented. So for us Indians, it sometimes becomes very difficult. But thanks to digital media and through efforts of so many organizations, we were able to preserve a lot of these texts in their original form, and we continue to do research and try to cull out the relevant information and make some sense or meaning out of it. So I'm going to draw inference to the first chapter, the epic battle of Mahabharata. And we'll not go into the story and the background and all that. Let's imagine we are on this battlefield where the armies are drawn and they are ready to kick off the war. But then suddenly what happens? The main warrior, the chariot, the archer, Arjuna, he collapses. You know that, right? This is all the context of chapter. Now we try to relate it to a modern organization, right? An organization going through a crisis, right? Or the head of the organization is in some kind of a crisis. Now it could be arising out of huge internal conflict. So the context is like this: that all the efforts were made to avoid the war. All efforts were made by all the senior members, everything, but then the war was inevitable. So it means that something has happened, the situation is arising, and it is now at a point where action has to be taken. Now we have to deliver, right? Now you're on the battlefield when both the armies are drawn out, they're just ready to attack each other, and then you suddenly collapse and say, "No, I don't want to fight this war." Now this is sheer stupid thing. This is where the Krishna, the coach, or the God, the word of from the mouth of God, tries to explain to this Arjuna, right? So what is Arjuna's predicament, right? He has been through this mental fog. His mind has kind of stopped working. He is not able to relate the current situation, and he's under severe emotional stress. So he's arising out of a huge internal conflict. He's not able to make out, should I fight this? What am I going to get? There's a lot of question answers goes on between the entire chapter 147 verses is between the Krishna and the Arjuna. Arjuna is asking all the questions, and these are very powerful questions. His arguments are very, very strong, very convincing. But Krishna tries his best to answer all of these arguments with a very thought-provoking answer and responses. So we'll see this in the upcoming slides. So let's say this is just kind of a sequence of events. This can happen in any organization also. So a kind of internal conflict is there, because of which the CEO or the head of the organization is confronting a very difficult situation. Although the situation is, the solution is known, but it's difficult to implement. right? It's not that there's no solution inside. There are some options. If you exercise, you will definitely find some solution, but then it's very difficult to. So what happens is head of the department or head of the organization or the CEO or CXO, whoever that person is, they try to make convincing arguments for not making a change or defending the status quo. If we do this thing, we will lose this market share. If we do this thing now, we do not have resources. We'll have to do a lot of cost cutting. We may have to let go of some of our market segments and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So these are all, very powerful arguments are being made. What the purpose is to maintain the status quo or not willing to make any change. And these arguments are very convincing at the outset. So what happens as a result, as consequence, the decision is taken that, okay, fine, we will not fight the war. We'll not go out and into the battlefield and we will simply not fight the war. Or in the organizational context, what it tries to say is that we will maintain status quo and avoid making any tough decisions because you become very faint-hearted, right? So as a consequence, either you will become a dinosaur, like you will perish, you will become like the Lehman Brothers or any other organization which has disappeared from the surface. So this is where it's very important to overcome these conflicts. Is very essential. Now here the leader is a competent person. It's not that leaders become suddenly incompetent. What are the competencies of the leader? Let us see again in the lessons. Try to skip animation here. So what we are trying to say here is that was he a leader or an incomplete one? So Arjuna was a ace archer, right? He was trained in warfare. He was trained in weaponry. He was trained in strategy, war strategy. He was trained in guerrilla warfare. Everything. So he was a very competent person. Then suddenly, what happened? Right. So he developed lack of clarity, due to which he was not able to exercise his discretion, or he lacked discrimination in able to judge one option from the other option, which option is the better. He developed unclear mindset, then became very defensive. He started defending to Krishna that no, if I fight my seniors? Why should I kill my gurus, my acharyas, my brothers, my cousins? What's the point in destroying, killing these people who are like my family, my blood relations, and all of this? His arguments very, very convincing. And then he became very faint-hearted, and because of which it resulted in poor decisions. So this happens when you are. Why this happens? Can anyone tell me why Arjuna became so faint-hearted on the battlefield? Those who know the story, of course, I don't expect international participants to really have the background of this story, but those from very much aware of Mahabharata and Gita, can you tell me why you think that Arjuna behaved like that? Anyone would like to answer?
That's called Moha and Maya, I can say, and it's the normal way the people react. They don't, go in that way with the wisdom that what's wrong. If anything
But
wrong,
why do you think that Arjuna almost collapsed? If you see the read those verses, he took over off his what do you call weapons that he was holding, and then sat down in the chariot.
Yeah, possibly, in my opinion, he was looking for the last and most, efficient option that can work, and these
Which
kind
was
of
not
war
there,
can
which
be.
was not available.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Avinash. Yeah. So we know that background, right? How can someone so competent, uh, so qualified, capable, well known, right, in his field, can behave like this or collapse like this? When they're just ready. See, now there's no point of return, right? Already you are on the battlefield. Now you cannot say that I don't want to fight a war. I mean, we tried this thing. We tried a lot of options to avoid this, but none of the options seem to work, and the party were unrelenting, right? They were not willing to let go of their position, even 1 inch, as we heard, as we read in the scriptures. So for a leader, what this means, now this can happen in your workplace, in your organization, even in your life. You may confront this kind of a situation, which may confront you, and you cannot just fall down and say, no, I can't do anything, I'm helpless. So this is where we try to combine the the, the traditional management philosophy versus what we find in our spiritual management philosophy in our Indian sacred texts. So for in order for a person, for a leader to deal with the world outside, you need a lot of skills, skills in terms of like your sense making, sensing, intellectual capacity, your ability to sense what's going on, what actions have been taken, what results we have seen so far, what additional steps need to be taken to change the course or to come back on the course. Now, every leaders, they do that. We do review meetings, right? What we do for just to see how we are progressing. We have a lot of dashboards and metrics and other measurements in place to tell us how far we have progressed, how far we are from our goal and approach, and what actions need to be taken, what corrective actions need to be taken in case if you are going too far off course. So every leader, they perform this, so then they have those skills, right? We have those skills. We also have visioning. We try to create a vision for our organization. Vision is like, what's the future state, where we are heading, what's our direction, in which direction we are going. So we are very good at that. People, the leaders, they have this capability, they have got the skills, operational know-how, all the technical knowledge, the process knowledge, how to run efficiently an organization, how to run efficiently a manufacturing division or a sales and marketing division or an engineering division. We have that operational know-how, and we also have relating skills, interpersonal skills. We have organizational setup, we have learning and development, we have behavioral assessment, so many things. So all these skills are there, but these skills are good enough to deal the outside world. Do we have anything kind of a template for managing the world inside? So how can you expect a leader to work efficiently when he or she is not in peace with himself? There's a lot of turmoil going on inside. This person is not at all at peace with himself or herself. So we need to find a way out, how we can create that semblance or balance between the inward focus, that is my own self. Am I at peace? Am I having that equanimity? Am I in a better state of mind? Am I emotionally stable or happy? So how we can strike that balance? This is where we will try to see a notion of a complete leader. This is where it starts to develop. So I'm trying to bring in some more text here from the Gita. So Gita talks about, as chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 is all about dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Then in second chapter, this goes on further. And we tried to, this is again from Professor Mahadevan's lecture series. So I'm just trying to connect it with the modern leadership, traditional and modern leadership aspects. So equanimity is something like that from this shloka. How it reads is, you have to read it like this. Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yudhyaya yujasva nevam papamavapyapsyasi. So what this means is that every activity that you do will always lead to three dualities. What are the three dualities? Let's say you perform some action and you get a result. So with that result, it will be expected or unexpected, right? There's a possibility that the result was expected and the result was unexpected. There's a test case you ran, it passed. There's a test case which executed, it got failed. Now you have to assessment. So you got measurements, you got metrics. It will tell you whether this is the desired output or this is not the desired output. And based on that, it will generate feelings. So if it is successful, you will be feeling happy about it. If it is unsuccessful or not expected result, you will feel not so happy about it. But you will do something about it, right? So can we have that kind of a balance here? So if you have a mindset, if you have that equanimity, our mental makeup, our mental model, where we treat happiness and sorrow, gain and loss, victory and defeat equally, right? No matter what is the consequence, I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to lose my mental balance. I'm not going to, get faint-hearted. So if you adopt this kind of a mindset, this kind of a vision, no matter what the situation, your actions will be very pure, right? Now this has a religious angle to it, but then try to connect it with the modern workplace. Equanimity, I think this is a key element of leadership. Every leader, otherwise what happens is that whenever there is a unexpected result coming from your report card, your leaders, they cannot afford to go mad. They cannot go and start shouting at the people, right? They'll be seen as a bad leader. So you have to have the emotional poise, emotional balance, what you call emotional intelligence, right? This is one. That's why we talk about nowadays more about emotional intelligence. So that's why there's a lot of relevance about this particular verse, or what we call in Sanskrit shloka, in the modern organization context. Any questions on this slide? Does it resonate with you? I'm sure those who are interested, you will again go back and refer this verse. So I've given the reference chapter also. It's chapter 2, verse 38. If you pick up your Bhagavad Gita, you'll see the translation of this verse and its meaning. But here I'm trying to connect it with the in the context of a workplace, and especially for the leaders, those who are, because leadership is indeed a burden. It's a responsibility and a burden, right? Which sometimes becomes heavy on your shoulders. All right, if there are no questions, I'll move forward. Let's look at this another verse. Now, this is very popular, right? Those of you who have seen the Mahabharata, epic. So, can anyone read out this for me? Anyone who
I'll
can
do that
read
for
this?
you, Hiren.
Yeah,
If
go
okay.
ahead, please.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srizamyaham. It has more also.
And it has a meaning. Yeah, it has a more also, but I just try to limit it to this verse only. So you must be knowing the meaning also for this, right? If you could tell that also, Avinash. So whenever there is, righteousness is challenged,
exactly, yeah.
or there is evil powers rising, which pose a severe threat, severe danger to the dharma, to the righteousness, then whenever this happens, right, when there is a risk of disorder getting created, I take avatar and I come to the world to bring the order back, right? To restore the order, basically. That's it means, right?
Exactly.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So I take birth, I'm reborn as an avatar and I come to restore that order whenever the society is in danger and all that stuff. Now, how can we apply this in the organizational context? So organization is also a living being, right? It has its own life, breath, and all that stuff. So how can we apply it to the organization, also society at large? So what it means, stability and long-term sustainability of the system happens because there are regenerative points in the system. What are these regenerative points? The feedback mechanism, feedback loops. So that's why feedback is very important. And how do we get this feedback? When we are in agile, so we get this feedback in terms of metrics, dashboards. We conduct retrospective, we conduct review, we conduct customer satisfaction survey. So these feedback loops are very, very essential for the regular sustenance of the organization to maintain that order, right? In the absence of feedback, we will be completely going astray, not knowing where to go. So whenever the system attains, or loses its balance or goes out of the equilibrium and shows signs of being unstable, so we try to bring in that corrective measures. So we say, okay, fine, now our defects are increasing, customer satisfaction score is going down, we're getting many issues. So we always get into the corrective mode. We try to implement corrective measures and try to restore the equilibrium of the system. You see the correlation between this very spiritual, very deep words from the sacred text to our modern organizational context. So that's why like this, they will find several such verses which you can directly connect to the modern organizational context. Any further questions on this? Because I got one more coming up with a slightly different meaning. Now I'll try to read this out. This could be slightly difficult to pronounce, but this is a very wonderful phrase, and I'm sure you'll be able to recall it from the deep trenches of your memory. So it reads, Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihati naroprani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. I'm sure some of you would have heard this or read this somewhere before. So if you remember, I would be happy if you could share what is the meaning of this verse. Okay, all right. So let me explain. So say like I'm wearing a white shirt today, right? So after 1 year, after 2 years, my shirt will be all worn and torn out. So what I'll do, I'll throw away, discard this shirt and wear a new one, acquire a new one, right? So what this shloka says that as your clothes get worn and torn out, we discard them and we put on the new ones. In the same way, the soul, the human soul also discards the old, worn, torn out body and acquires a new one. It's a kind of reincarnation or rebirth, right? That's what it's a very deep spiritual meaning and all that. So can we apply this in the organizational context, right? So in order to be a successful and sustainable organization, need to continuously engage themselves in discarding old ideas. So this is very simple, whenever you think that the idea is becoming irrelevant, it's a very old, outdated, it does not have any relevance because things have changed. It could be because of the change in policies, it could be because of change in demographics, because of change in the nature of the business or the market. So many factors which we are in a very rapidly changing world. So we have to keep pace with this changing world. So any idea that we think that's old, outdated, is become irrelevant. We have to continuously replace with the new ideas. Or we have to keep pace with the changing times, so that we do not become ourselves the relics of the past or the dinosaurs. We'll be vanishing from the face of this earth and the planet, right? So as an organization, we have to continue to embrace new ideas, new mindset, continue to evolve, right? The technology evolution, process evolution, product evolution. So this is to continue to sustain and continue to grow ourselves. So this is the essence of notion of time and change management. This is a very, very deep meaning. This is a very spiritual meaning. In the Indian ethos, in Indian spiritualism, this is a very deep meaning, right? Because we believe in reincarnation and rebirth and all that, but then it is applied in a different context here. Any questions on this? Anyone disagree, agree with this thought process?
I totally agree with you, Hiren. But I'm just thinking that can it be correlated with the form of energy? I mean, what is soul? It's kind of energy. It is a bunch of energy, and which keep on changing from one form to another form. And this is how it progresses.
Okay. Sorry, I missed the last part of your question. Can you please repeat, Avinash?
Soul, in other way to explain for others to understand, it's just a combination. It's just oracle of energy.
Wonderful.
And that has to keep on changing.
Yes. Yeah. So even if you yeah, good point. So even if you look at the spiritual angle, right? So this is also a process of evolution. So the whole purpose, the journey of life is to become better and come back in a much better form, and then continue to perform that until you reach moksha or nirvana, right? That's the whole as per our spiritual and So organizations also have to continuously evolve themselves. They always have to find ways to be better. With the adoption of new mindset, new philosophies, new practices, new product line, so that it's a kind of a sustainable development. Right? So, yeah, you can directly relate it to agile principle of sustainable pace of development, right? So you have to continue to evolve and sustain yourself. You should not uh, suddenly become a kind of a shooting star. You come and then go and you disappear from the scene. No, it should not be like that. It should be continuously evolving and becoming much better and better by the passing day, the passing week, month, year, and so on. Good point. Thanks for chiming in, Avinash. Really appreciate that. So just a summary in a nutshell, it is leadership according to Gita is nothing but inspirational, right? So leadership, outgrow from a narrow perspective, outgrow a vision from narrow perspective. What is in it for me to, opportunity to make difference to the people, the organization, the society? So it should be more big-hearted, large-hearted, and it should be, your vision should be for the organization, right? Or if you're leader of the people, it should be for your society, for your country, for your nation. And yeah, there have been different leadership styles, seven leadership styles from Daryl Goldman and Jim Collins, 5 levels of leadership. But here, I think the leader is one. We have to, in modern theory, we're talking about emotional intelligence, we're talking about servant leadership, we're talking about management 3.0 concept, where the leadership theory is, leader is showing the way to the team, not commanding the people, right? So not afraid of anyone and also not generating any sense of fear in the other. So again, it's a sense of equanimity. Yeah, Avinash, you gonna raise your hand or you?
No, I just clap. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks. Yeah. So again, this verse again from chapter 12. It's a very short verse. It says Yasmatana udvijeta lokaha lokatana udvijet chaya. It means that neither you are fearful for the others, nor you are getting afraid from others. So it's kind of a equanimity, kind of a balanced view. Again, and then again, other attributes which you also find in transformational leadership, other leadership attributes like dramatically transform people and entities, and leave behind a legacy and an impact that guides a large number of people for a long time to come. The people who continue to remain very relevant even after the decades that they've gone and left this world, like people like Henry Ford, and others whose legacies still continue to live on even after many, many decades. And show and inculcate the value of mutual dependence or interdependence, right? We have to think about the environment, we have to think about returning back to the society. So it's all interdependent. You cannot be, in all isolation. So these are all the various attributes, we find it very relevant in our sacred text. So yeah, I might have gone a little bit fast in many of these sections, but again, if you read if you get time, if you get a nice version copy of translated version of this Bhagavad Gita, all the chapters and verses, I think it will tell you that it will tell you basically it is about handling the world around us, at the same time handling ourselves, even though when we are engaged in thick of the things. So we should not get affected. Whatever actions that we perform, whatever results that we get, we should look at both the results with equal poise, right? Neither we should go mad with a lot of success, neither we should become faint-hearted because of tremendous loss and failures. So we should always be getting up, able to get up on our feet and then continue to work as if uh, I'm not saying that don't have the don't care attitude. That's not the meaning. You should not be affected. Your peace inside, your world inside should be as stable as the things are stable outside, right? But if the things outside are becoming unstable, that should not result in creating instability inside you. So no matter what happens, you should always be emotionally stable, lot of peace, tranquility in your inner world, right? So peace within is essential to deal with the outside world, and this is the key attribute for any leader, modern leader. And that's why the high performance organization, need leaders who do not get stuck in this whirlpool of crisis and mental fog the way Arjuna got stuck, right, on the battlefield. So also you force you to think, right? Can anyone be a leader, a good leader or a great leader when he or she is not in peace with himself or herself? That's a point to ponder for everyone. So I bring I'm very impressed by my professor at IIM Bangalore, Professor Mahadevan. You can find a lot of his resources here. This entire uh, material that I present today is thanks to him. He has provided much more detail. There are very long hour and a half videos on YouTube on his channel. If you have time, I would recommend that you can go and listen to him. Very inspirational and very motivational, right? So a lot of lessons for us leaders to take a cue from. With this, I end my session here and opening up for any questions for me so that I can try to answer. How did you find this session? Let me know.
It's really wonderful and truly eye-opener for many, those who are watching, I believe. And coming close to the 40, I don't hesitate to admit it that, I have been also in this kind of a stage, unfortunately, all of a sudden twice. And in my early days, I didn't find anyone kind of a role model. But slowly, with the growing age and possibly meeting a lot of thought leaders and, like this forum and all people, slowly started watching and going through the scripts and all that. And I realized that, it's nothing new, it's been since a long time. Take example of Lord Rama. I mean, on the very next day, you are going to be, the owner of whole empire, and all of a sudden, you are not only thrown out.
Yes.
You are also said that for another 14 years, you need not
14 years. Imagine 14 years you're in exile.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of such fantastic, episodes like Arjuna. Even Arjuna, the Pandavas also had to, because of the curse or whatever the condition that they had to go through, they had to be in exile, right? Even they also had to be in exile. And what was the curse? There's a story. I'll just take a minute to describe it because these are very interesting stories, and this give a lot of parallels in our life. How we can relate. So Arjuna had once turned down a proposal for wedlock, right? For a marriage, right? And this really infuriated the woman who had proposed. And then she gave him a curse that you don't know what it is like for a woman to feel the rejection, right? So I give you that curse so that you also feel that how it is like being a woman. So if you remember, while they were in exile, Arjuna had to get into the guise of a woman. She was teaching dance and other forms of art to his student, and she was had to get into the dress of a woman, and then he realized that, oh, this is what it is like, So these are all lessons learned. So if you read the scriptures and try to get the meaning out of it, you will apply this in your context. You will really get the real meaning. The one I brought this because as leaders, we do a very tight rope walk. We have to balance so many things. We cannot sacrifice one aspect for the other. But then it becomes so challenging, difficult, right? If you listen to your people, then you sacrifice business. But if you focus too much angle on the business side, then you sacrifice the people element and aspect and all that. So as a leader, you have to be conscious about what's the right path, what's the right steps you have to take, and how you can bring about that desired outcomes and results. And no matter what outcome results are eventually generated, you don't get affected by that. That's a very key lesson that I get from this particular series of lectures from Professor Mahadevan.
Exactly. And this COVID situation definitely demands a lot, this kind of practices and thought processes. Basically, the thought leader should come forward and guide many people.
Absolutely.
I mean, what I realized that nobody is coming here for the sake of fun in this world. Even not the Lord Rama, Lord Krishna's. They have suffered a lot in their life now that. So everybody has some of the association. Another way you can say one of the user stories and all that you have to compile, make your definition of done, both outward, inward, and all that. And
wonderful example. Awesome, Avinash. Yeah, I really like it. Yeah. That's the very direct correlation you're bringing. All right. Anyone like to share anything? From your experience, what are your thoughts?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, I've already put my comments in the chat. Okay. You have nicely intertwined the spiritual aspect and the corporate aspect. I've attended many. This is one of a kind where you tried connecting both. The analogy what you gave, that was fantastic. And also you brought a very, very valid point, what the current contemporary, the so-called the millennials or the current, the so-called the work-life balance aspect, right? I think that just went for a toss because
absolutely.
I'm also keeping a tab. I'm just keep checking how things are changing. Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I think it's a different insight for me. I think I started my weekend with a very good note. This is my third session. I'm joining from the US this session. This is something quite interesting. And also I just wanted to, with this I'll finish off.
Yeah, sure.
So last week I attended the icebreaker.
Harsha's session. Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was pretty nice. Last night I was conducting a workshop through online to hundreds of students in Chennai. I'm part of one of NGO where we teach quite a few things for the underprivileged college students, particularly. So I was conducting a workshop for 2 hours in my night, and I've just applied some of the icebreaker what Harsha, and there is one more person, not recollect.
Rashmi, yeah.
Rashmi, right? Yeah. So I've used how are you feeling, that emotion?
Yes.
They were asking about the emotion, so I started off with that. That was nice. So I wanted to just say that as a compliment to the previous presenter. It was pretty nice, ma'am. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to take part in much more sessions to keep my learning to get augmented.
Yeah, Arun, you're very heartily welcome, and thanks for your warm words and appreciation. It's very humbling to hear you say these words. And we're also delighted that yes, at the end of this, whatever that we're sharing, whatever knowledge we are sharing with the community members, it is really helping in one way or the other. After all, it is something may be really new, something may not be new, but it may be presented in a different context with a different meaning. So if you're able to connect with that, that serves the purpose, right? And
that's right.
But then this journey continues, so you are also welcome. If you are interested in presenting, please get in touch with Agile Waters. On behalf of Agile Waters, I welcome you to we present all interesting topics under the sun, as long as it gives back to the group whatever that we have acquired over the years in terms of our knowledge, skills, and experience.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah, maybe I would.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.